Good morning students. Today I will teach you chapter 1 of class 8, that is crop production and management. In the previous lecture I taught you about the agricultural practices. There are 7 agricultural practices I had told you in the previous lecture. In the previous lecture we had learned only the 3 agricultural practices. Now I will discuss the next one. Hope you already done your homework of the previous lecture. Now before starting the topic agricultural practices part 2, I had to taught you about the crop rotation. What is crop rotation? As the name indicates, growing crop alternatively in the same field is called crop rotation. Which means as we grow a crop in the field and then we had to grow a different crop in the same field. In this way we can help to maintain the nutrients of the soil and maintain the texture of the soil. So that is crop rotation. So the fourth agricultural practices is irrigation. Irrigation is supply of water to the crop, as water is very essential for each one of us. So water helps us to grow. Similarly, it helps the crop to grow. So there are many advantages of water to the soil, to the crop. Number 1, that is growth of the crop. Number 2, the germination of seeds. Number 3, the transportation of nutrients to all parts of the plant, and it maintains the moisture of the soil. So in this way, water helps the crop to grow. So there are many sources of irrigation or sources of water through which we can supply the water to the crop. Number 1, that is well, pond, dam, river, canal, etc. So there are number of methods through which we can supply the water to crops, from river to crop, from dams to crop. So we categorize these methods in 2 categories. Number 1, that is traditional method, and number 2, that is modern method. To understand these methods, please open your book on page number 8. You can see the traditional methods of irrigation. There are the 4 traditional methods of irrigation. Number 1, moat. Number 2, chain pump. Number 3, dhekli. And number 4, rahat. We can see these methods on this page. Number 1, moat. That is pulley system. What does it mean? You can put the water from the pulley from the well and supply the water to the crop, as you see in the picture. Please look at the page number 8. Figure 1.4. The next is figure 1.4b, that is chain pump. Here there is a pulley which is attached through a pump, and without any man's labor we can supply the water to the field. Next is dhekli. You can see this also in the figure. The next one is rahat. Rahat is done by the animals on the field. Please look at the 4 pictures of the traditional method. Have you seen these pictures on your book? Okay, let's start with the modern method of irrigation. So next is modern method. So modern method is used nowadays because it is not laborious for the farmers. It helps the farmer to do their work very quickly. So nowadays modern methods are used. So number 1, sprinkler system, and number 2 is drip system. You can see these two methods on page number 9. Look at the sprinkler method. Here is a perpendicular long tube joined with the main pump supply. Through this tube there are many perpendicular pipes are in the field with a sprinkler nozzle. As the water is supplied through this mains, the water passes through these perpendicular pipes and sprinkle all over the field like raindrops. So these rotating nozzles help us to spread water all over the crops. So this method is very useful for lawns and coffee plantations and other several crops. Next is drip system. In this system, similarly, a pipe is attached to the main pump, but there is a pipe which is attached to the root of the crops, as the water is directly supplied to the roots of the crops. So this method is very valuable for the field or for the place where the availability of water is poor. So this technique is very good for gardens, tree or fruit plants. As where water supply is less, these methods are used, that is drip system. So next agricultural practices is protection from weeds. What are weeds? So weeds are undesirable plants which are grown with the main crops. As we've seen, sometimes the plants are grown along with the crops. These are unwanted plants. We don't need these plants as these plants are very harmful for the soils. So the undesirable plants which are grown with the crops are called weeds. So next is the removal of weeds. The removal of weeds from the main crop, the process is called weeding. So we have to remove these crops from the soil. So there are number of reasons due to which we have to remove these weeds. As it interferes with the harvesting process. When we cut the crop, it interferes with that. Next is compete with the crop. As we supply the nutrients, water to the crop, it is used by the weeds also. So crop doesn't get the required amount of the nutrients that supply. Next is it is poisonous for animals as well as human beings. So these weeds are very poisonous. So we have to remove these weeds from the main crops. So we have to do number of methods to remove these weeds. Firstly, number 1 is tilling before sowing. So tilling is just putting it up with khurpi. You can see here it is on figure 1.2b. We have already done in plowing, that process by which we have to loosening and tilling the soil. So next is manually, that is khurpi. So chemically, that is weedicides. So supply of chemicals or spraying of chemicals on the crop help us to remove the weeds. There are number of weedicides. Weedicides are the chemicals. So number of chemicals has been used nowadays, that is 2 or 4D are the main weedicides which are used. But these weedicides are not used directly as we get from the market. We have to dilute these weedicides before using. So put a few drops of that weedicides and large amount of water in a spray bottle. Then we have to spray on the crops. So it is very essential to cover your nose as well as your mouth before spraying these weedicides on the crops, because it causes many respiratory problems to the farmers. So you have to see on the page number 10, figure 1.6, if a farmer cover his face, nose as well as mouth with the cloth before spraying the field. So the next is harvesting. Though harvesting is cutting of crop as it is mature. So the harvesting is the process of cutting of crop during its mature. So it can be done by manually or with machine. Manually it is done by sickle or it is done by harvester as a machine. For this you have to open your book and see the sickle on page number 10. Have you seen this? This is the sickle which helps the farmer to harvest his crop. Next is combine, that is harvester. So harvester plus thresher is used as combine to harvest the crop or cut the crop. So there is one more word, that is threshing. Threshing is separating grains from chaff is threshing. So on small scale we have done this harvesting. On small scale it is called winnowing. So the cutting of crop on small scale is called winnowing. In our country there are harvesting festivals like Pongal, Diwali, Baisakhi, etc. So on cutting of crop we have a celebration there. So that celebration is named as festivals. So there are number of harvesting festivals which we celebrate during cutting of crops. The next is storage. Now after cutting of crop we get the crop which we desire. So our main responsibility to store that crop. So protection from moisture, insects, rat and microorganism of a crop is called storage of the crop. The storage of the crop should be done in such a way that a crop we obtain during harvesting is dried. So dry crop is stored in jute bag, metallic buns. On large scale it should be in silos and granaries. So storage of crop should be done in jute bags, metallic buns, silos and granaries is for large scale. So one question is there, in our home you already seen your mother who had dry neem leaves in the wheat she is using dry neem, and as you already seen your mother put dry neem leaves in the grains which are stored in home. This dried neem help the crop to protect from insects and mosquitoes. So storage is very important as it is help us to stay our crop for long time. So we have completed the 7 agricultural practices: plowing, sowing, adding manure and fertilizer, irrigation, protection from weeds, harvesting and storage. These are the main agricultural practices by which we can produce the crop. So next small topic is animal husbandry, that is rearing of animals on large scale by providing food and shelter to animal. Rearing of animal means we have to place large number of animals in in a field where we give them shelter, food, and in return to this we get dairy products, milk, cream, butter from that animal. So this process of rearing of animals on such a large scale is called animal husbandry. So I had completed with your chapter 1. I attached the PDF of workbook along with this video. You have to write all the question answers in your workbook and learn by heart. Hope you enjoy with the chapter 1. I will meet you in the next video with chapter 2. Till then, you have to learn chapter 1 and write all the work in your workbook. Thank you.